Section 2.6 day 3 is just going to have us taking all of our graphing irrational functions just one step further. So I'm just going to walk through my steps again. First one is factor and cancel. In this case, we're going to take something out this time that they have in common. So they each have a 3x, so I'm going to take that out. And if I take 3x out of 3x squared, if I were to take 3x squared and divide by that, I'd be left with an x. And then 3x divided by 3x would be just a 1, so that's what's on top. On the bottom, I've got x squared minus 9. That is actually a difference of squares, so it's x minus 3 and x plus 3. Oh, nothing cancels, so no holes. Vertical asymptotes are denominator equal to 0, so I have to set each of these equal to 0. So I've got an x minus 3 equals 0 and an x plus 3 equals 0. So my vertical asymptotes are at 3 and negative 3. Horizontal asymptote is where is the highest power of x. When it's factored, it's sometimes tough to see. Since we didn't cancel anything, I could look back at this original one, or just really pay attention to the fact that there are two x's up here, there are two x's down here. That makes them both squareds. So since they match, I have to look at the coefficients, which is what's in front of them. So 3 over 1 is going to be my horizontal asymptote. And just to reiterate, the only reason I could actually look back at this original one is because I canceled nothing. So if it helps to look back, you totally can, but you can only do that if you don't cancel anything. SA can't have an HA and an SA, so we'll get rid of that. X-intercept solve when the numerator equals 0. We have two things up there, so 3x is going to equal 0, and x plus 1 is going to equal 0. So this one will be 0, and this one will be negative 1. So I have two different x-intercepts. Sorry, brain fart there, and then this one's negative 1, 0. My y-intercept happens when I plug a 0 in for all of the x's. So I'm going to look at this one because it's a little bit easier. 0 squared is 0 times 3 is 0, so that's all 0 up there. On the bottom I have 0 minus 9. Doesn't really matter because the 0 on top is 0. Which makes sense because that's what I had over here. So that's my match. So let's go ahead and graph, and then we'll do the domain and range. So I have my verticals, got my horizontal, now I have my x-intercepts. One of them's at 0, and one of them's at negative 1, 0. And my y-intercept is at 0, 0 as well. So if I just try to connect these, and as soon as I kind of try and get close to my asymptotes, I'm just forced down to negative infinity. So it's kind of like an upside down parabola a little bit. And then I still have to check for my other pieces. Like there could be a piece over here and there could be a piece over here. So we're going to need an XY chart. I'm going to try the number 4 and I'll try negative 4. So I'm putting a 4 into this function. So 3 times 4 is 12. 4 plus 1 is 5. Down here I've got 4 minus 3 and 4 plus 3. So I've got 60 on top divided by 7. That's just more than 3. So I know that I'm up here. We'll try negative 4. So negative 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. Negative 4 plus 1 is negative 3. Negative 4 minus 3 is negative 7. And negative 4 plus 3 is negative 1. So we got all that, 36 over 7, which again is just more than 3, so I'm above the line. And there are my other two chunks. So now we're moving into this situation where I could have two vertical asymptotes, and it kind of ends up splitting my rational graph into 3 different pieces. What's going to be tough is our range, because we're not going to get super technical with it, which is a little frustrating. But we'll start with domain. So domain is all real numbers, except any of your VAs, which are at 3 and negative 3, and holes if we had any, which we don't. Range is going to be a little trickier because we would need to go to this highest point, which we are not in this unit figuring out. Like if I gave you your calculator, you could totally graph it, find that maximum point. But that's not the point of this lesson. So when you have one like this, the same thing will happen when we do slants as well. Kind of tough to talk about that highest place. So I'm just going to say kind of goes from negative infinity up to about, I'm just going to say a half because I don't really know, again, because I'm not going to figure that out exactly. But we just want to give a ballpark, and then we're going from 3 to infinity. So maybe just getting kind of a close estimate Again, if your bump here was lower than mine or higher, maybe you come up with a slightly different number, but we're just focusing on breaking it up into two chunks. We've got two clear pieces of where range is happening, but we won't be able to get too specific because we're not going to worry about where that exact max is happening.